we saw an extraordinary Sunday afternoon footy. I think we'd all hoped that there would be an incredible crescendo to what's been a terrific season, but we couldn't have hoped for more excitement than what we got with the result, with the Western Bulldogs getting over the top of Hawthorn in Tasmania, and then the ensuing game between Carlton and Collingwood. And it was devastation if you're a Carlton supporter. It was extraordinarily triumphant. If you were Collingwood, it was a nail biter to the very end. You were there. Wowee.
Well, instead of us trying to describe what happened at Carlton and Collingwood, let's just listen. I'm sure you've seen it more than a few times. If you're a Carlton fan, I do apologise sincerely, but this is how things went down. So, for more context, and again, sorry, Blues fans, in round 22, with 22 seconds remaining, you were in the finals. In round 23, with 110 seconds remaining, you were in the finals. But as we now know, this is unfortunately for Blues fans and fortunately for Western Bulldogs and probably everyone else, this is what happened.
Ginnivan's there. Elliott's there as well. It kicked out the back. Now Elliott can face the goal. He can give it to Gideon and go for the lock. He kicks the goal. Collingwood are in front. Collingwood are in front. Can you believe it?
No, Brian, I cannot believe it. That audio, of course, thanks to our very good friends from Channel 7. It was hard to believe, Pat. Those who want to go in depth will see, they didn't have enough numbers behind the ball and all sorts of things. But besides all the X's and O's and all the tactics, genuine heartbreak for Carlton fans and players.
It was. I think especially given the fact that they had a significant lead at three-quarter time, you just felt like if they could get one of those early goals and it all of a sudden be a 5-goal margin, and there was opportunities for that. Patrick Cripps played one of the great games. He was just extraordinary. Contested possession, clearance, he was just extraordinary. It was amazing to see, especially given the late withdrawal of Sam Walsh, who we understand has had. It was listed as back issues, but it has to be something along the lines of a slip disc or something similar. Because he's as tough as they come, Sammy Walsh. Oh, yeah, it's so challenging. I mean, we've both been part of games where you lose the ones that you should win. But given the season that had been, there's no doubt that they'll look back and just rue the different opportunities lost. And I understand the commentary throughout the week around, well, what scenario-based training are they doing? It is impossible to replicate 89,000 people at the MCG when you're 3.5 quarters deep, when the lungs are burning, when the crowd is caving in, and you've got to work through that. Unfortunately, it's one of those things where you have to experience it. And once you've experienced it more and more, the repetition, then you start to understand.
Yeah, I absolutely concur with all of that. The fact of the matter is the Blues were 8-2 at one point. After 10 games, quite clearly they were 8-2 and they missed the finals. So a lot of talk about success, failure. Not everything needs to be determined by a success or a failure. But one thing I'm keen on, and you alluded to some of it there, but specifically you as a leader, you've been a vice captain for a long time. You've been in a leadership group for nearly a decade, and you've captained AFL clubs along the way. How would you address the season as a whole, the past 2 weeks, and then how would you address the ability or the need or the thought process or the path to be able to move on so guys aren't carrying it all summer?
Yeah, and I think the key there, and it's very, very difficult because there's so much emotion that is tied up in the disappointment of the combination of a season that ends up in disappointment because you don't make the finals. I don't think you address it here and now because you're going to have a different team that takes you forward into next year. but there's important lessons to be learnt from this game. And fundamentally, the vast majority of their core will still be there. So there'll be really good learning points there to improve and get better from. What do you take from it? Well, you take the great that was an 8-2 start, so many powerful performance, and you build off the really good stuff, I think. And there's no doubt there's an area, as there is for every team every year, there's areas to improve on. But I'm a strong believer you work in and off the things that you've done well, and you really nail down and bite down on those things and look to improve your strengths and make them even greater. And then you obviously address your deficits. They're probably potentially a few players short potentially, but at the same time, what they need is experiencing those moments. And they've got another 22 games and some really tight ones at the end of it where those players will be even more mature. What I've experienced throughout my career is we've had really good experience on every line. So everyone's understanding of what they need to do in a certain scenario at a certain time. And if someone isn't quite sure, well, it's more than just one in terms of that experience. So you can bring everyone back to what our goal is in this moment, what we need to execute. And if someone drifts from that, you can realign them quite quickly.
Okay. Wise words from allegedly, apparently, a newly found wise man, a 300 footballer.